And now, our feature presentation.
I like it spooky.
Hey everybody, welcome to the I Like It Spooky Horror Podcast. I'm Brian.
I am Clint, and the technical gods have fought this episode tooth and nail. We were supposed to record Sunday, but I threw that off track because I got back late coming back from Living Dead weekend. Then we sat down to record Monday, and my microphone took a shit. And then we sat down to record right now, and Brian's computer was acting all up. We have fought the fucking Matrix. We have defeated Agent Smith, and we are here.
I was going to say it was one of two things. The carnies, and I have nothing against carnies, but they don't want you to know what's going on. Or the gypsy. You know, the gypsy in this movie, she was pissed because those kids were being assholes.
Well, actually, do you know what I think it was?
What's that?
You remember a few episodes back where I was talking about how I killed the bunny the day before Easter and then pissed off the fertility gods, and I've had bad luck with women ever since? Someone listening must have done some sort of ritual because that luck has changed, thankfully. But I'm wondering if the byproduct of that is technical difficulties.
Now that we got the technical difficulties taken care of, my news this episode...
God, I hope so.
If we would have recorded regular time, this would not be news, but today it's news. Sony Pictures acquires Alamo Drafthouse Cinema, the dine-in movie theater chain. So Alamo Drafthouse was going to shut down. It had filed bankruptcy during COVID. Started out as a small, locally owned, and then I think they had like 35 places throughout the United States. So the studio behind Bad Boys and Garfield and all that acquired the theater chain Wednesday. And it includes a deal for their film festival also. Sony's saying, any movie from anybody can go in Alamo Drafthouse. They're not going to stop that. But it's illegal for a studio to own a theater, or it was at one time. I think Disney owns the theaters now, and some other companies own theaters. But at one time, like 80 years ago, it was illegal for studios to own theaters.
Why? Did they consider it like a monopoly?
Yes, because they would only put their own movies in the theaters. The biggers, Paramount and those, the big studios, MGM back then, would swoop up theaters and be like, here's only our movies. And then other people couldn't get movies in there.
That's all really interesting. I knew nothing about any of that. I thought Alamo Drafthouse, which I knew was more low-key and scattered, like you say, 35 or whatever theaters or locations throughout the country. I thought they were still going because I remember when I was doing Spill the Guts a while back talking about different Alamo Drafthouse events. I wonder if Sony is going to honor the somewhat independent spirit and feel of Alamo Drafthouse, or if it's just going to become another mainstream outlet.
I hope they do. With the film festival and with the other stuff. It sounds like Sony's got some Price is Right live that they'll force into the theaters and some other stuff. But I almost feel like you as a film company couldn't keep a theater alive just on what you're putting out nowadays.
No, because of your streaming services and your free Tubies, and no, it's like everything else in the world. There's so much selection, too many choices. Everything from deodorant to movie houses. No, it's not like that anymore.
Cinema's hurting right now. I think we talked about a couple episodes ago how bad the Memorial Day weekend was.
I remember talking about it. I don't know if we recorded and put that on air, but yeah, it was the Mad Max sequel, and Garfield had just bombed and did terrible, and
worst, I think, in 11 years. Cinema's really hurting, and it's becoming one of those things where I have an 85-inch TV and fucking surround sound and popcorn, and I'm not worried about some teenage assholes walking in or people on their phones. I can watch it at home and have the same experience.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think theaters need to go back to their roots. Okay, I guess this isn't roots, but their early goings, and do that 50s style. I can't remember the guy who ran the name of the guy who ran the movie, but Matinee, the movie with John Goodman. Just is it William Gaines who did that? Yeah, and you had the shock seats and the smellorama, and just make them gimmicky and fun. Give people an experience, give them a reason to go there. Because like you say, I can just sit at home and watch what I go to the theater. I go to the theater to see the movies because I've grown up up in the theater. I enjoy going to the theater. I want to continue to support cinema as a whole. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, why go?
Well, and that's one of the nice things about the Last Picture House, other than their fucking amazing cup holders. You pick your seat. They have their sound system blows AMC's out of the water. Their picture screens blows AMC out of the water. They also have a thing at the beginning of their movies. Pretty much says, if you act like a fool, if you talk during the movie, if you act rowdy, your ass is kicked out.
2 big bouncers with their arms crossed at either side of the stage, like Bruno and some other guy getting ready to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, it's an old black and white, movie, like a Charlie Chaplin or
A
something.
little vignette.
Yeah, they're like pretty much, if you act like this, your ass is out. And that's the way it should be. You shouldn't be talking and on your phone and all that during a movie.
Well, maybe other theaters throughout the country should adapt what the Last Picture House does and incorporate some badass, sleek cup holders. But Brian, I don't know if I'm cutting in if you had more news to follow, but I'm going to put you on the spot. You shared something to me right before we started recording, and it ties in with the fact that I just got back from Living Dead Weekend. I would love to hear about it.
Are you talking about the toy?
I'm talking about the fucking toy, baby. Yeah, that I'm going to have. I'm going to order as soon as we get done recording.
So this is from a Muck Time Toys, and it's a Monstars toy, and it's the Creep Show figure, was it Vernal?
Jordy Verrill.
And it looks beautiful. 4 inches with a bucket, with a meteor that splits in half.
Meteor shit.
Yeah, meteor shit not included. Looks like it's going to have a nice, cool backer card. It's got 10 points of articulation, and he's just got meteor all over him. His beard's meteor. It's got all over him. And it's $20. Yeah, it looks like a great figure.
The price is right. How do you not? Because the only other Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill action figure that out there is a Distinctive Dummies, which the Distinctive Dummies are cool. Some of them I think look a little cheesy. They're hundreds of dollars, especially aftermarket, and they're usually limited, like 1 of 50, 1 of 250, stuff like that. So they're hard to really catch when they first come out. But this is amazing. And so Monstars and Amok Time have done other Creepshow figures in the past. They did Nathan Graham as the zombie from Father's Day. They did the 2 from Something to Tide You Over, Galen Ross and Ted Danson. They've done Fluffy in the Crate. They did the Creep. I saw an announcement from them a month ago, that they were going to be doing more Creepshow toys. And then I forgot about it. And then Brian shared this with me, and it's amazing. I wonder, and I doubt, is Stephen King going to start doing cons to sign this damn thing?
That would be awesome. I don't know how much he would cost.
I wonder how much they'd pay for it up to college.
With the cost of stuff right now, but
$1 million.
Oh, you done it now, Jordy Verrill? You monkhead.
Probably. Are the other ones, the older ones, worth a lot? Do you know?
No, the value hasn't really increased in them. And I will tell you this, I'm not knocking them. I have all the ones I just listed. I'm going to order this Jordy Verrill one the second we get done recording. I'm not arguing with Brian. They do look cool, but Trick or Treat Studios, I think, does it better as far as the smaller 3.75 inch or the 4-inch action figures. The Monstars ones are kind of clunky. Their sculpts are okay. They don't increase value unless you get them autographed.
I mean, there's a Father's Day one on eBay that sold for $45 with free shipping. So yeah, they're not really worth a lot. Fluffy was $34 with $10 shipping. I mean, so they've increased some in value. I mean, here's the Creep, but he's all beat up for $20. So some of them increased a little bit, but not a lot. But for $20, I mean, hell, you can't get hardly anything for $20 anymore.
Are you kidding me? I just got the girls Taco Bell for dinner, and all I did was get them each chicken quesadillas, nacho fry, and a Pepsi, and I didn't get anything. So for them each to have that, it was $25.80.
Woo! God damn. What do you got for news that's not how expensive fucking Taco Bell is?
Well, I was going to say, we don't even need to do Why Are We Poor? That's why I'm fucking poor. I bought Taco Bell. So I got some news, some scattered news from Living Dead Weekend. Some of it's just kind of quirky. None of it's really solid news, but it was just things that I picked up from talking with different celebrities and different handlers and vendors and stuff like that. I finally got the chance to go back. I vended there a couple years ago, thinkmirrors.com. I didn't go last year. This year, I broke the Bad Bunny curse, and I had an amazing time time with the beautiful Rebecca. Shout out. And went down there, had a wonderful weekend, got a lot of autographs. But I was talking with Steve Marshall from Night of the Creeps, which we discovered Night of the Creeps. I said something about, we need a sequel, just, shooting this shit. And he says, Fred Decker's over there and he's got an idea for a sequel. And I said, oh, okay. And he sounded really serious. So I thought, well, shit, maybe we're going to revisit this. You know what I mean? This would be amazing. And then I finally got over to meet Fred Decker and I brought that up and he just looked at me. He was like, Steve's full of shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just messing with you. I'm like, oh, man. All in good fun. But so no Night of the Creeps sequel. What else do I have? I was talking with the handler of Alan Kaiser, who was from Mama's Family, and he played the Bradster in Night of the Creeps. And not that to take anything away from any of the people that I talked to, any of the celebrities, because they were all great. In fact, Fred Decker was really cool with me. He was getting ready to set up shop and then kind of open back up to meet me and autograph my stuff and everything and take a picture. Alan Kaiser was amazing. He was funny as hell. He was just amazing. I'm really glad I had a chance to talk with him. But I'm talking with his handler while we're waiting to meet him. And come to find out, this isn't really big news, but it was interesting to me. Silver Scream Con, which takes place in Maryland, and that's put on by Ice Nine Kills, by Spencer from Ice Nine Kills. Well, I found out that the same people that put that con on, the same people that put on Astronomicon in Livonia, Michigan, which I just thought was interesting. So we were talking about the con. I told her I usually vend, and she was like, you should check them out. And I said, I thought about it. It's kind of far out east for me. I just thought it was interesting news. And then, so when I got done talking with Alan Kaiser, I turned around and Bob Heckman, the director of Victim No More, the Friday the 13th fan film, who I see at all the cons and stuff, he was there. So I just started talking with him. I've talked a little bit before that Victim No More 2 is on the way. I said, hey, are you going to be shooting around Jersey? I said, I'd like to take my friend Rebecca here out there to go check out Blairstown Diner and stuff like that. It'd be a fun trip. And maybe we could just kind of coincide with when you're filming and be an extra in the movie, And he said he wasn't for sure yet. But he showed me some artwork that I think is going to be for the Indiegogo campaign or maybe the poster for the film. I kind of forget now. I said, can I talk about this? And he said, yeah, because your show is coming out right when this artwork's hitting. So you get a chance, look up Victim No More Part 2. You're going to see this amazing rendered artwork, and it's a severed head of Jason Voorhees, the sackhead Jason. There's one eye looking out. There's an arrow sticking out of his head, and it's sitting in a pool of blood. This may sound like something dumb to report, but it was a beautiful, if this was a poster, I would buy it and put it on my wall. It was a beautiful rendering, and it's going to be coinciding with Victim No More Part 2, so check it out.
I feel like Victim No More Part 2 needs a spot on Indie Spotlight.
I thought about that, and actually him and I kind of talked about that a little bit, and I think we're going to be setting something up here in the near future, distant future, because he's just getting ready to ramp up production and everything on that. So the first one was so good.
Well, I would love to highlight that film and get it into more people's eye holes.
Well, absolutely. And then and the one in their one eye hole looking out of the Jason sack, the sack head. There's so many Friday the 13th fan films. And I actually think it's really cool too, because with all the Friday the 13th bullshit that's going on, it was nice to hear that there's another project continuing forward, because everything's kind of died. You don't hear much about Friday the 13th fan films. The game's done. All this crazy crap from Horror Inc. and Sean Cunningham and the WB Universe game. People are probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but so it was refreshing to hear that one of the better Friday the 13th fan films, definitely a fun one, and Bob Heckman's a great guy, is moving forward. If no one has seen it or remembers, the first one had a guest spot with Catherine Mary Stewart from Night of the Comet. So that's interesting also, that they're bringing in other stars from other movies from the horror universe to be in it.
I had a guest spot with Catherine Mary Stewart too.
You did. You played the part of... why is my mind blank today? Oh, it's been a weird day.
The cheerleader.
Yeah, you played the cheerleader, yeah. Kelly Maroney. You were the guest spot of Kelly Maroney.
I wore that shirt to Kansas City for the Night of the Comet with Darcy and Joe Lynch. I didn't get my picture taken, but Finley sure the fuck did.
Well, yeah, she's a cutie. You didn't know you were a pro cosplayer, did you?
No, I didn't.
You should have wore a wig.
I don't have the down, yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
If anybody wants to know what he's talking about, I think we talked about that on the Night of the Comet episode. Kelly Maroney likes to prepare herself for photos. Speaking of meeting celebrities and going to Living Dead Weekend. Oh, wait, and the other cool thing about Living Dead Weekend is I finally got over to, this isn't news, I don't know why I'm talking about it right now, but we finally got over to the Haunted House restaurant in Cleveland, Ohio. Tons of fucking fun. It was quirky. The food was decent. The atmosphere was amazing. I'm glad I finally went. If anybody's in the Cleveland area, go check out the Haunted House restaurant. I don't know if I'll make a trip specifically just to go to that, but it was fun enough to where if I'm in the area, I'm definitely going to stop by. Because of money spent there and spent at Living Dead Weekend and what Brian spent to go cosplay as Kelly Maroney out of state, we're poor.
So on this episode of Why Are We Poor, I only have a couple things because I know, or I think Clint has a couple things this episode.
Well, yeah.
It's been kind of a slow lately with his horror stuff, but I think he's back on the horse. So one of the things I picked up, and this is horror maybe adjacent, and I stumbled upon this film on one of those hard to watch movie icebergs, and it's called Come and See, and this is a Criterion Collection special edition Blu-ray, and I've been keeping an eye on it. I finally pulled the trigger on it. I need to watch it. It's a Russian film. It's a war film. It's supposed to be one of the hardest films to watch. Very realistic, very bloody, very gory, but a very important film also. So I'm going to check that out.
I'll add some levity to the situation. It looked like Ivan Drago on the cover of that from Rocky IV. Like, if they die, they die.
But it's 142 minutes long.
Holy shit.
So it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. And then I'm a Patreon supporter of the Lost Drive-In. You know, Darcy, the mail girl's going back and putting Joe Bob's old Monster Vision on TV or online, doing a lot of stuff. And I got the newest one of that. This is number 8. I have 1 through 5, 7, and 8. They've skipped 6 because 6 was originally supposed to come out around Christmas, but it's disc 666. So they're like, well, we don't really want to put that out during Christmas. And then Roger Corman passed away. So this has a tribute to Roger Corman with film from the drive-in last year in Vegas. It's got a Freddy's Dead, Serpent in the Rainbow, and some stuff on opera. So in a Lost Wes Craven interview. So that's what's on this one.
So it's very important to have the Roger Corman stuff on there, and that's amazing. But skipping over part 6 is like when a high rise doesn't have a 13th floor. Yes, they do. You know what I mean? Or in fact, the Nugget out there, Stagecoach Stop, there's a motel there that will soon one day be a horror themed hotel, and there's 14 rooms. No, there's not. There's 13 rooms. For whatever reason, they skipped over 13.
Every room's gonna be 13. A, B, C, D.
The 13th level of hell.
A VHS that I absolutely did not need, but it was $5. Son of Godzilla.
You are right. You absolutely did not need the VHS of Son of Godzilla.
But it was $5, and the artwork's not great, but it's fun.
I'll give you that. That is fun looking. I like the colors. It's got pretty colors.
Whoever D.W. Hogan in East Moline, Illinois is, this was his copy because he put a sticker on the back of it. So if you're listening, Mr. or Mrs. Hogan, I got your Son of Godzilla.
Thanks, D.W. Hogan, for making us talk about that movie again. I appreciate it. Don't read the address. We'll get in trouble.
A place that's in my area is called Disc Replay, and it's, a secondhand store. They have electronics and movies and records and Pokemon cards and Magic cards and computers. And they just moved from one location to another. So we're like, let's go check the new place out. And they had a bunch of old VHS. The last time our old co-host Underwood was there, because he lives in the Quad Cities, they had Dawn of the Dead on the laser disc for like $45. And I was like, that's probably not a bad price, but what the hell would I do with it? I don't have a laser disc. I have a VHS, but that's, and I got Mr. Bones. I found him. Finley found this guy at a yard sale for $25.
Did a plush skeleton Halloween decoration sit on the table thingy?
I think it goes on your Christmas tree or your Halloween tree. But the other day, Finley, I was off work and it was Tiffany's last day of school. So Finley and I went to the pizza place and the park. And we took him with, and the library, and we just took pictures of our trip that day. So I think I might take him to Kentucky with me and just take pictures wherever we go, and then, build something for the TikTok and the YouTube channel.
That's kind of fun. The Adventures of Skelly.
So what about you? What'd you get? You just went to Living Dead Weekend. You probably got...
I got lots of autographs. I went over and took the inkmirrors.com Creepshow 2 The Raft Blob toy, and I went over and Daniel Beer was there, who was in that segment, and gave one to him and got him to autograph another one. Rarely do I get my stuff autographed and keep it, because then I got to make another one, you know what I mean, for the inventory when I go to shows or if someone orders one online. Daniel Beer, this was like his 3rd show ever. It sounded like he's ramping up to try to figure out how to do some more. Yeah, so I got that autographed, and I have that on the wall, so I paid for that. See, I had Tom Atkins autograph my Shout Factory limited NECA Night of the Creeps Ray Cameron action figure, which I think there's 1,000 of those around. There could be more. And what was interesting about that is I got autographs, which I'll talk about in a minute, from all of the cast and crew of Night of the Creeps. And when I met Steve Marshall, he saw that I was holding that action figure, and he starts asking me questions about it. And he says, well, I wonder how they do that with the royalties and who they pay and this and stuff like that. Well, Tom Atkins was sitting right next to him. He was at the table next to him. So when I went over there, Steve Marshall came over, grabbed the figure, and started talking to Tom Atkins about it. And Tom's like, yeah, he was like, I might be screwing this up, but it was something to the effect of he got a limited amount of royalties. I remember he said it really wasn't much. He said, but they gave him, they did the limited run, but they gave him like 35 of them and just said, here, he makes his money off doing the signings of them. So he's like, I'll sign these things all day. You know what I mean? But it sounded like it wasn't some huge brokered deal, that it was, of course, Night of the Comet isn't a mainstream movie, but it sounds like maybe those things aren't as massive of a financial transaction as we think they might be to get rights to things.
I wonder, what did it cost the figure? Do you remember? At cost, what did you pay for it?
God, I got, of course, aftermarket, and I think I paid somewhere between 100 and 200 for it, I think, maybe.
I wonder what it was at cost.
If you look at the Halloween 3 one that came out, which wasn't as limited, I mean, that was going for $75 and included an autograph inside, but it wasn't as limited. So I dare say that it was probably 80 to 100. Well, if I paid 100, it was probably around $80.
Even if it's 75, he takes it at 75. He throws an auto on it, sells it for 100 and a quarter.
Ooh, we're going back to school, math time. I'm glad you're doing math.
4,375. I mean, it's not a ton, but hell, that's more than I make in a day.
In a day? Yeah.
He probably got $5,000 total out of the deal.
That's about what I spent in autographs when I went to Living Dead Weekend. No, actually, everybody was really nice, really reasonable. But yeah, so I have the Mike Mash Studio 666. Wait, is it Studio 666? No, that's a freaking movie. It's Curious Good 666. I am off today, I'm telling you. We should record another day. Technical difficulties. We blame everything wrong in this episode on technical difficulties, even my brain lapses. But he made a beautiful shadow box, light up shadow box, and I got it from Living Dead Weekend a couple years ago when I was there, and it's from Night of the Creeps, and I had Jill Whitlow's autograph on it, but now it has Tom Atkins' autograph on it, it has Fred Decker's autograph on it, it has Steve Marshall's autograph on it, it has Alan Kaiser's autograph on it, and of course I met Jason Lively. And it was funny because Rebecca and I were standing there, and she's a horror fan, but she is more mainstream. I'll tell you a funny story about that in a second. And so we're sitting there, and Jason Lively's the first person we go to meet, and she kind of recognized him, but she was just kind of looking around or whatever. And then he spoke. I saw her hear him speak, and she looks up, and then they got the banners behind him, and she was like, "Oh my God, it's Rusty."
I'm Rusty.
Hello.
She's a huge fan of the National Lampoon's, franchise. And so it was really cool. We all got a picture together, and, he's always crazy and funny. But yeah, so I got all the cast and crew to sign that shadow box. It has, with Ivan E. Roth's signature on it, has 7 autographs on there now. I'm pretty happy about that. No, so the funny story real quick, this Rebecca story here is posted some pictures of our trip there. Our ex-co-host Jason sent a message, and he said, who's the pretty lady in the picture with you? He said, is it someone special? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, does she like horror? And I said, she's a mainstreamer like you. I was like, like the Halloween franchise is her favorite films. But yeah, I mean, I guess it counts. And he fires right back. He was like, marry her now. It was hilarious. He just wants someone else to talk about Halloween with.
Oh, fuck. Well, I mean, that was news that we got the other day that Corey from Halloween Ends is going to be a flashback.
I'm interested about that.
Interesting. That's kind of cool. Somebody said, I'm only getting his autograph if he rides in on a motorcycle with somebody dressed as Michael Myers with a mask on the back.
That'd be an amazing photo op, wouldn't it?
Yeah, wouldn't it?
I wonder, I might get him to sign the Halloween Ends toys that I offered through inkmirrors.com.
Oh,
yep,
yeah.
The tongue, that'd be pretty cool. I've talked before about it's interesting because nothing against the guy, and I thought his acting was amazing, but so many people hated that story in that movie because of his character, not him, his character's involvement in the movie. Is I wonder how he would fare at a con. So I'm going to sit back and watch and see if, the villagers take pitchforks and torches and try to burn this guy out of the building or not.
They should put him right next to Dick Warlock.
Yeah, but don't worry, you're next to the coolest named guy in the world. Who's your name? My name's Dick Warlock. Well, all I know is I spent more money this go around than I normally do, and again, I already mentioned, but of course, then spent some money, went to the the Haunted House restaurant in Cleveland. So let's take it to a sponsor. I need some money. Bottom line.
The global community for podcasts, Good Pods, is a fast-growing, award-winning free podcast player and discovery app where you can listen to, discover, and share all your favorite podcasts and shows. Available on iPhone and Android app stores or at goodpods.com, it is the place to follow your friends, discover new podcasts, track your podcast listens, and bookmark new podcasts for later. Sign up today for your free account at goodpods.com.
So now that we've heard from our sponsor, it's time for the movie. The 1981 Tobe Hooper directed, almost 3 fucking minutes before the movie starts because it's just like Dolls at the beginning.
I wrote the same thing down in my notes.
I was like, come the fuck on. It's an hour and 35 minutes long, and it's like, come on, let's get to it. But it's a first-time viewing for me, The Funhouse.
So I'm going to start off with this real quick, and that is the movie is easily recognizable as a Tobe Hooper film. Almost all of his films outside of Life Force, which I still have not seen, they're gritty, they're realistic, they use real locations. Tobe Hooper's fingerprint all over this. This is turning into the Rebecca show. I'm just going to mention one more thing. Is the reason we covered this film was we had something else queued up, and I sent Brian this message, and I said, hey, I met someone, and look at these pictures, because she sent me pictures of her physical media collection, which was pretty big actually compared to mine. Brian, you'd probably appreciate it. And there's a lot of mainstream horror in there, like some Scream and Halloween and stuff, which is cool. But smack dab in the middle of all that, tucked away in the middle, was the Funhouse. And so I said, Brian, look, there might be some hope here. The Funhouse is in the middle. And he says, I've never seen that movie. He said we should cover it. I said, perfect, absolutely.
Well, and this is what people call his trilogy of white trash. Have you heard this before?
I have not heard that, no.
So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Eaten Alive, and The Funhouse, the trilogy of white trash. I mean, because you think about it, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's a white family, they're kind of maybe inbred, or I don't know. And then, the Eaten Alive with Robert Englund, he's a bit part in it, but he shines as a bit part. But, it's about white families traveling, and they get at this hotel, and there's a guy that kills them and feeds them to the crocodile. And then The Funhouse, which is a bunch of carnies running a carnival, families, they're traveling, and I'd never seen this movie. Right away after that, you get some nudity and some perverted little brother. I was like, what the fuck is this? It was weird.
But real quick before that, I just wanted to say that I feel that Tobe Hooper's filmography is actually unknown to many outside and some inside of the horror universe, to horror fans. Everybody knows Hitchcock's work. Everybody knows Wes Craven's work. But Tobe Hooper, when you hear Tobe Hooper, you think Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and everything else really seems to be off the beaten path a bit. But no, you're right. This had the full moon type opening with, like when we covered Dolls, it was a series of what I refer to now as GIFs. That's what we refer to now as gifts of the sideshow animatronics along with the opening credits. I thought it started off like a giallo slasher film, The Black Glove, all of that. Then it kind of threw some Michael Myers stuff in there where you had the mask over the camera, so you had the slasher stuff going on, which now I know why Rebecca loves this, because, she's the Halloween fan. I'm an only child, so I don't understand the brother walking in on the sister while taking a shower, and it just seemed like normal. I walked in on my mom once, and I will never forget it. Never. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry, but it was weird.
You get some psycho feel to the shower scene too?
A little bit, yeah. You can see where he's paying homage to that, doing the famous shower scene with Janet Leigh where Norman Bates stabs her.
But was it not weird that she had like a bunch of medieval torture items on the wall?
Well, I was like, is that her bedroom? It had to have been his bedroom, because the bedroom was decked out. I think it had to have been his, because he was holding a little Frankenstein doll. This kid was like 12 years old, her little brother, 10, 12 years old. But yeah, he had Frankenstein posters and Dracula posters. But yeah, then the wall has like maces and battle axes and spears and shit.
It doesn't matter whose bedroom it is, it's still weird, right? Whether it's his or hers, yeah.
Normal is boring and weird is awesome, but that was weird. And I tell you, the actress that they chose to play his sister, which I don't have her name in front of me, but she was young. She looked young. And I almost felt dirty because it wasn't really gratuitous, but she gets nude and gets in the shower and she's lathering herself up. And I'm like, well, I shouldn't be watching this. She looks like she's like 15 years old or something.
So the final girl in this movie is Elizabeth Barrage. And here we go again. Did you find this? Now, she was not on Night Court, but she was on the John Larroquette show.
I did not know that. It all goes back to Night Court, baby.
She played Officer Eve Eagers on John Larroquette from 1993 to 1996. So again, back to Night Court. Because I kind of looked up her filmography and there wasn't much, but I was like, fucking John Larroquette was on Night Court. I mean, he's Dan Fielding, and then he had his own show. So there you go. Everything 8 degrees of Night Court. Here we are again.
It's the center of the fucking universe. That's why it's my favorite show, and I watch it over and over and over.
But after that first little bit of horror, you don't get anything for quite a while.
I knew you were going to say this, and this is why I wrote this down, because I'm going to give my interpretation of that. It may seem like this film, especially the beginning until the last half hour or so, is full of filler with no real direction. But I think Tobe Hooper's vision was to share the experience of going to the roadside carnival, because the way I viewed it in the beginning, it's almost an anthology of shorts comprised of the different attractions and carnies, and the two couples are kind of like the wraparound story.
I can't remember where they go first. Is it to the Freaks show they go first?
Oh, I think it was the cow, wasn't it? Like the split face cow or something. Yeah, the freak show.
Yeah, the Freak show, they go there first. It's got, the split face cow, which is some foreshadowing for later in the film. There's the baby, which is foreshadowing for later in the film. They did that really well. And if you weren't paying attention, you'd miss it later in the film. But as a young child at our age, when you would go to the carnival, that's what it was like. There would be freak shows there. At least I remember they were. I mean, there was the trailer with the little people and the half snake, half person, and maybe some animals that were mutations. And those animals actually belonged to somebody in real life. They were.
I thought you were behind the bars at the carnival.
Well, I was, but at night, like Templeton the rat from Charlotte's Web, they'd let us out.
Oh, okay, that makes
sense. We could go around, and then you could see the people.
And then you got out and about, and that's why they threw you in the psych ward. It totally makes sense.
But yeah, that's one of the things that kept me going in the movie, was that experience of, I feel like I'm at an old carnival. Because then they go to the
fortune teller.
They piss her off, idiots. And then they go to the dancing nudie kind. Well, they weren't really naked. Were they naked? I felt like they had pasties.
I think they had pasties on. So I mean, they were nude, but no nipples were showing, so it was okay. It was great family fun because no nipples were showing.
But I mean, that's pretty much the first hour of the movie.
Pretty much. And, so I talk about the filler and stuff, and I really think that if you appreciate old carnivals and you like slow building stories, because I do feel this had a good story, if you can get past kind of what seems like a pacing issue, there was one weird thing that I thought it was just odd. And I'm wondering if maybe it's a true story and that it happened to Tobe or maybe someone else involved with the film. But the brother sneaks out because he knows his sister's lying. And she hooks up with this older guy that her parents don't want her to go see. I think they're in high school, but he's not. And he works at the filling station, the gas station. So you got the two couples, the two girls, the two guys. The brother knows that she's lying and saying that she's going to the movies or whatever. She's going to go to the Funhouse because the parents don't want her to go to the Funhouse because this traveling sideshow in another county or something, a nearby county the year before, a couple girls were murdered. So they're like, this is weird. So the brother sneaks out, and it was fun because it reminded me when I was 12, 13 years old and would sneak out of the house in a summer night and wander through the neighborhood and just experience different things. But out of nowhere, this old guy shows up and he's like, "Hey kid, need a ride?" And I thought, oh, this is gonna be icky. And then he pulls a shotgun out on him and then just starts laughing. It was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. And then the brother gets caught. I didn't understand that. I was like, what, did he pass out or did they drug him or what happened there? Why is he not feeling well?
After the guy, in the pickup truck tries to scare him with his shotgun, that was so weird. The kid goes, he jumps the fence, gets into the carnival, and he's walking around checking out stuff. And then after our two couples see everything, they decide that they're going to stay in the fun house, the horror house, and sleep there overnight. That's when the carnival was starting to close down and the brother was still there, and that's when the carnies caught him.
And I feel like this was set in Iowa, but it was shot in Florida.
I didn't get a Florida feel from it.
No.
I mean, it was anywhere USA.
And I feel like this is one of those offshoots of Friday the 13th, did really well. So they're looking for like a teeny bopper movie to kind of fill and make some money on. I don't know how much money it made.
What I thought is interesting is this movie came out in 1981. It was 7.8 million or something like that. I don't remember for sure, but it came out in 1981. And actually, I think this, for being sort of a pseudo slasher coming out in 81, I actually think it was ahead of its time and stood out from the pack while being this like crazy nostalgic retrofit or look back into the past, because almost all of the slashers that came out in 81, which that was the year of the slasher, outside of My Bloody Valentine and the success of Friday the 13th, they were all kind of the same recycled story. And this had something different. This wound up having a really good story. If you are a haunted house fan or enthusiast, the trip through the haunted funhouse is a fantastic nostalgic thrill ride.
When I saw that, I thought to myself, Rob Zombie saw this movie and loves this movie.
This is a complete influence for House of a Thousand Corpses. That's later in my notes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way he didn't. And I don't know Rob Zombie. I didn't see that anywhere online, but I thought to myself, this is Captain Spaulding's at his chicken shack where he sells chicken and in the House of a Thousand Corpses. I said, this has got to be something he saw and enjoyed.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are about to enter a world of darkness. A world where life and death are meaningless and pain is God.
There's actually about 3/4 of the way through the movie. I think it's in the funhouse. I could be wrong. It might be just outside, but it was one of the weird, scary animatronic clown faces. It's the same or really identical to the one that the big guy wore at Spaulding's shack in the beginning of House of a Thousand Corpses.
So my other question was, what do you do with the rings that you get on the carousel? Any idea? You know, they were reaching for the rings. You just turn them back in?
No, I'm stumped. I don't have an answer.
When you go on the carousel back then, they would reach for rings, and I was like, what the fuck do you do? I should have maybe looked that up. Maybe you don't do anything with them. Maybe it's just like, I have more rings than you. I'm cooler.
I mean, it was a simpler time, but that's what you got from this movie is what the fuck do they do with the rings?
Well, I saw them grabbing them. I was like, what the fuck do you do with those? My other thing was, so we get to the fun house. You know, they're like, we're going to stay the night. So, of course, the girls call their parents, and I'm staying at Clint's house, and Clint's staying at my house. Kind of one of those things.
Brian and I are going to do each other's hair and listen to records.
You didn't have cell phones or Life 360 or anything like that back then. So your only way would be for your parents to call the other person. And it didn't seem like her parents fucking wanted to do anything. Because towards the beginning, when the kid's sneaking out, the dad's like, oh, go tell Joey, or whatever the fuck his name was, something. And she's like, I'll tell him in the morning.
Well, the mom was a horrible mother and she was a drunk, and the dad was almost just like demasculated. And then they were just like suburban, you know, they just barely even looking at their kids. They were just happy to be watching Bride of Frankenstein on TV and drinking their whiskey.
So the kids decide they're going to stay at the fun house.
Is that how they do it in Iowa? The parents just drink whiskey and don't even look at their kids and say, yeah, whatever.
It must be. I don't know. I'm in Illinois. So I could ask. I have some friends that live in Iowa. So the kids decide they're going to stay at the fun house. They end up getting locked in, but I don't think they know they're locked in until Frankenstein gets jerked off by the gypsy for $100. How many times have you heard that sentence in your lifetime?
Right. Now this movie's starting to take shape.
That's probably a movie name. Brian Clark probably loves that movie.
Yeah. Yep.
Frankenstein does not have stamina.
No, he's quick draw McGraw. He feels embarrassed. Oh, she starts running her mouth at him, and then he gets mad.
Chokes her to death. The kids see that, and then the dad comes, who kind of runs the carnival. Because there was the other guy that had captured the kid. I was like, what is he in charge? Who's in charge here?
Frankenstein's dad, or the monster, is how he is billed in the movie. His dad, I think, ran the carnival, or at least the funhouse. And those other guys, I think, were just the paid muscle to set up the tents and tear down and stuff like that. I'm always a fan of the story naturally moving along and paying attention with detail as it moves itself along. And so I loved it when the monster killed the fortune teller, because he inadvertently, as he's choking her, electrocutes her into the fuse box, which, you know, short circuits the funhouse back on that. So it made sense. It moved the story along. So now we can have all this cool interaction with the four teens stuck in the funhouse as they try to figure out how to get out.
The dad knows someone's there because one of the kids drops his lighter through the slats. So he's like, someone's here. And the kid had stolen the money. So they're pissed that the money's gone. Probably the funniest line in the whole fucking movie is when the dad shows up and he's like, "What do you mean you gave her $100? I could have got you one of them tent girls for $15."
Right.
I was like,
yeah.
"What? $15? I need to go to the fucking carnival."
He was mad because he was messing around and killing what his dad called one of our own, a carny. He was mad because the fortune teller actually brought a decent amount of money in for the carnival. And yeah, he was like, I can go get you one of the tent girls and one of the local girls. You want to mess around with them like you did. And then they drop that little bit of the story like you did those 2 girls last year in the other county. So you find out that in that little sentence, oh, the monster did kill the girls. That whole scene, because of course it wouldn't have been that bad if the kid with the glasses, the teen, didn't steal the money. And then when they discovered that the money's missing, the dad flips out, and the monster's performance was fucking phenomenal. So the monster is played by Wayne Tobe, and he is superb. His performance is second to none. He has excellent emoting just through his grunts and his body movements. It reminds me of what Leah appreciates about Diggy Graves when we covered Music on Indie Spotlight, talking about how he can emote so hard when you can't see anything, just his shape. And then, of course, you have the monster's face reveal, which is actually pretty fucking terrifying.
And it's a throwback to the cow because his face is almost split like it's 2 people. And you learn that his brother was the baby in the freak show. There's all these throughout the movie. That's why they're called throughouts. Through the movie that, the kids that were missing, that the parents don't want her to go, the cow and the fate, so yeah, it all ties together really well.
And something that I think is really in your face and hits you over the head, but maybe not noticeable at the same time, if that makes sense, is the monster's character. He's mute and he has this rage in him, but he's actually really gentle and just wants to be loved. And so he's wearing that Frankenstein outfit. His dad doesn't want to see his terrifying split mutant white-haired face. It's scary as shit. So he wears this Frankenstein monster thing to work out in the crowd outside of the Funhouse. He's actually that character. He is Frankenstein. He has this rage inside, but he just wants to be loved. He's actually gentle, and he's just, abused and shunned by society. You talked about the throughouts and the payoffs. Some people are going to watch this movie and think it's long and tedious and boring. And I tell you what, the movie isn't boring. It has a lot of tension building, but it pays off in its own time. And so if you want like a modern, polished, tight-paced movie, this probably isn't for you. But if you skip it, you are going to be missing out on a gem of a time capsule movie. Because like Brian talked about earlier, it's a good 40 minutes plus into the movie before we get to the real horror story and it starts to take shape, which is what we just discussed. The fortune teller getting killed, the kids stealing the money. And now, last half hour, we're off to the fucking races.
Yeah, the dad shows up. I like that character. I like that he's strong, but he's not overpowering. I like the monster. And they slowly start picking the teens off. I mean, I feel like this is one of those that I want people to watch. I don't feel like a lot of people have watched, so I hate to spoil it. Even though it's an older film, I hate to say, oh, this is exactly what happened. This is a first time watch for me, so I don't want to ruin it for people.
No, the other notes I have don't really give much away because, like I say, everything we discussed, I think, almost needs to be said and laid out for people who might not appreciate it, so they do sit down and give it a chance. But that last half hour after everything we just talked about, and I say off to the races, there's a lot of cool shit that happens. A lot of cool shit. And a lot of the story starts to pay off. It turns into more of a horror story. A couple things I do want to talk about are performance stuff because, again, Wayne Tobe, in that scene, the dad gets mad and makes him start hitting himself and abusing himself. And just watching what he did was amazing. With the corpse barn, my old haunted house, we took an old camper trailer and we converted it to a mini haunted house. It had like 3-4 scares. It took 2.5 minutes to get through, and we took it to Relay for Life, and then we took it to some school functions and stuff, and it was just for charity stuff, charge $2 to go through or whatever. We had it at Relay for Life one year. I always talk about being a haunt actor. You're able to get the stress out of the day, or someone makes you mad, you can stay in character and get that out. And I remember 3 teen kids come in. It was hot in there and it was a long day. It was like 90 degrees. It was in the summer. And these kids came in and they're just walking around going, I'm going to punch you. Don't jump out. I'm going to punch you. I'm going to just all this trying to act badass. And I don't know what it was, Brian. Something in me snapped and I jumped out in character, in costume. It was the first full head sculpt mask I ever made, which was this crazy clown called Hazard. And I made the brain really thick. Thank God. I jumped out in front of them and I started just punching myself in the head and just started screaming over and over, something something about punching me in the face. I'm going to punch you in the face. And you want to see about getting punched. And I went off. Snot's coming out of my nose. Those kids shut up and ran. I loved it. But it made me think of this scene because the Wayne Doba's thing, beating the shit out of himself, was, again, a great performance.
Dad is like most parents. You know how you yell at your kids and then you're like, I didn't mean to do that. He says that at one point. I don't know if he means it or not, but he's like, I'm hard on you, Junior, or whatever he calls him, and he's like, I don't mean to be like that.
I love that scene. He gives you a little tiny glimpse into the backstory. And although I'm not condoning the fact that he was abusive, he was an alcoholic, he was not a good person, but you get to see why. You get to understand, you get to see a little bit of his remorse and his humanity, which I thought was amazing. It was short-lived, and then the madman kicked back in.
This would be a great triple bill. I think if you watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre and then you watch Eaten Alive and then you watch this, you'll have more of you'll feel better about Tobe Hooper, and you'll have more of an appreciation for his filmography outside of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I think it would be a great double bill with House of a Thousand Corpses also, because they're really, really similar. But I do think that this isn't anything against Rob Zombie, because I love House of a Thousand Corpses. Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses was a love letter to this movies or movies like it. It was hyper stylized and it was fun. Tobe Hooper actually had some shit to say in this movie. There was story and there was some personal backstory of some sort, or maybe a story he heard. And again, his look at probably his experiences as a kid going to the old traveling sideshow.
Did you have any other notes on the movie?
I got a couple things, and that was Rick Baker, the great Rick Baker, who did the makeup of the monster's mask in this, or not mask, but actual face. He was actually supposed to play the monster until Hooper saw a performance by Wayne Doba and said, no, you're my guy. And Rick Baker's Rick Baker, so to be chosen, someone else to be chosen over him, although this is more early on in his career, it shows you, I tell you, if you enjoy performance art, watch this movie just to see Wayne Doba's performance of the monster. Amazing.
And to know what Rick Baker's gone on to do, like, what the hell?
Absolutely. We're not going to talk and give a lot away about what happens after, the last half hour. This will be a little spoiler, I guess, because I loved the symbolism. The kid who winds up stealing the money winds up getting killed. I'm not going to tell you when, where, how, or why, but what I thought was cool is I guess I'm going to tell you how. As he's getting hoisted into the air up through the ceiling, the money all falls from his pockets onto the floor. I thought that was really cool. And then just the last thing I was going to say was, you talked about the brother passing out. You think that the Carnies are evil and going to steal him. And it was kind of jarring. All of a sudden, the parents are there. They must have figured out how to contact the parents. They come pick up the brother, and the brother's like passed out, laying on the couch, and the Carney's got a washcloth, and he's like taking care of him. The Carney gave more of a shit about this kid than his parents did. But it was really creepy the way he was looking at him and rubbing him and stuff. But they didn't allude it was sexual. It was really fucking weird. And all I could think of is, as a parent, if I were standing there, I'd be like, you need to get the fuck away from my kid, And the last thing is, the movie ends, because it can't end until the fat lady sings.
Yeah.
And the movie ends with the fat lady singing. Literally.
So I'm a big physical media fan. I think everybody that listens to the show knows that. This was on Shout Factory 4K in 2022. So you could probably still pick it up from Shout Factory, or you can grab it on the secondary market. I don't know that I want to see it on 4K. I don't need to really see it. I kind of like the grimy.
Takes the grit. Leave the grit in there.
And they may have. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen it. Probably one of the cooler things, though, is a novelization of the screenplay was written by Dean Koontz under a pseudonym. But the movie took longer than expected. So the book actually came out before the movie and has a lot of the backstory. So I think that would be interesting to check out.
There was a delay in the post-production. We are morphing into one person, Brian. This is scary because I had that written. This is like the third note that we both had written down, the same thing. Well, how about the fat lady singing? How would you rate it?
Okay, so I did 3 ratings because I feel like it's a different film up to points. And I knew you would think it took too long to get started. So for the first part, I gave 6 out of 10 Carnies. Once the horror hits, I gave an 8 out of 10 freak show hand jobs. So overall, it's a 7 out of 10 fuse box covers, because every motherfucker, these people need to buy some fucking fuse box covers. And if you watch the whole movie, you'll get the joke behind that. Buy some fucking fuse box covers.
There was no electrical inspectors in this carnival. Hell no.
Not at all.
I love your ratings. And actually, I pretty much agree with it. I didn't even think about rating it separately. Although I do agree, like I say, it's almost like an anthology of just visiting the traveling carny, and then it turns into a horror story. Because it was was kind of seamless, and I saw what I think he was trying to accomplish as a filmmaker, what Tobe Hooper was. I went with 8 out of 10 influences for House of a Thousand Corpses. I've seen this movie before. It is not a first-time watch. I think it's the third time I've seen it, and I really enjoyed watching it again. And it's also one of those movies where it's slow enough where you can almost just kind of relax. In fact, since I had seen it before, when I watched it before this show, about halfway through, right before the last act, I was cooking dinner and I was watching it, and I didn't have to, you're not going to miss anything.
And the other thing you can do is you can cook dinner, pour yourself a nice drink, and throw on the PFPN, our podcast network. And if you listen close enough, you definitely won't miss anything on there, right?
I don't think so. There's a lot of different stuff covered on there. Let's hear from them.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
So now that we've heard from our podcast network, it's time for This Day in Horror, and we're covering June 23rd through July 6th, so we get through the 4th of July.
A date which will live in infamy.
And there's not shit on the 4th of July. But we do start on June 25th in 1976 with The Omen. I hear the new Omen movie's really good. I haven't checked that one out yet.
I haven't either.
And then in 1982, The Thing, which is really good.
One of the greatest movies ever made.
And then July 2nd, I saw this on the drive-in. Yeah, at the drive-in with my friend Justin Beam from Reverend Entertainment. Alligator from 1980.
Alligator. Wait, hold on. I got to go back to The Thing real quick and cut you off. I'm sorry. The Thing is actually not, I'm sitting here thinking about it after you said that. It's kind of similar to the Funhouse because it's slow in parts and it's all for the humanity of everything, which is one of the reasons it's such a great fucking movie.
Nobody in the Funhouse does CPR on somebody and gets their hands eaten, though.
No, that's why The Thing is cooler.
And then in 1986, we get Big Trouble in Little China, which it's not really horror, but I quite enjoy it. And it's got, Kurt Russell and John Carpenter directed it, right?
Yeah. I don't know what that is classified as. Probably fantasy. You'd almost think dark fantasy, maybe. I don't know. Fun movie.
Psycho 3.
I love Psycho 3. Psycho 3 was one of those movies that I had recorded off like Fox 47 that I would watch over and over.
Really? And then July 3rd in 1930, we get The Unholy 3.
Talking about more Rob Zombie stuff, that was influence for Devil's Rejects for, Spalding, Baby, and Otis.
And then in 1985, we get The Lift. This is probably the funnest. I wouldn't say the best movie, but the funnest movie on this list. In 1987, we get Surf Nazis Must Die.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and it's a fun, you like that movie? It's a trauma.
I'm a trauma fan, and it is trauma through and through. It is pointless, it is meaningless, it is directionless, it has terrible fucking acting, it's got an awesome title, the cinematography sucks, but it is such a fun fucking movie.
But the mom in that is great.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
July 6th in 1963, Blood Feast.
Blood Feast is definitely not a movie that you're going to show your mainstream normie friends, but it is cool enough to where one of them out of 50 might go, man, this is pretty cool. And then you are going to use it as a gateway horror movie. Take a shot, motherfuckers. It's been a while. Into a world of seedy horror madness that Brian lives in.
Seedy, but it's not at the same time because it's old enough that you don't really see anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it still has that, similar to the Funhouse, but it's a theater and has that grit and,
I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore. You have any idea what's going on?
Not a fucking clue.
I mean, on this episode of What the Fuck is Going On, I don't know that there's much going on. I'm gearing up to go to Snake Alley Festival of Film here in a couple weeks. We would have just celebrated the 4th of July, so hopefully nobody blew their fucking hands off. Other than that...
Did I ever tell you the story about that? Did I ever tell you the story my dad told me about his buddy blowing fingers off? Oh my God, it's fucked up true. And he told me it was true. And I remember I asked him a few times, like, because I thought when he told me, is this like some parable about don't fuck with fireworks, kid? But he's like, no, this really happened. When, long before I came along, him and his buddies on the 4th of July, they're all out on a bunch of different boats in the lake and they're throwing M80s. And he said that the one guy went to throw his M80, he lit it and it had a short fuse and he didn't know it. And so as he's going before he could let go, he kind of twists his hand and it blew up in his hand and blew 3 fingers off. But here's the fucked up part, folks. The way his hand was twisted, the one finger that blew off went straight into his eyeball and he lost his fucking eye.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, fun with fireworks. Be careful out there.
And that's why you leave it to the professionals, kids.
Yep.
But, I mean, as adults, we all fuck around with fireworks. We're like, don't do that, kids. And then what do?
I'm always safe with that stuff. And I was lighting some off here at the house one year and we had a bunch of people over and I had it, like sky flowers, we're shooting 20 feet in the air and I lit it and I ran back and the tube just happened to fall towards everybody and my house and everybody's running and screaming, and I said I was sorry. And then I went and lit the rest of them. But
it's like that video, back up, Terry, back. You seen that one?
No.
It's a guy in a wheelchair. I
have seen that one. Yeah, I've seen that one.
Any conventions between now and then?
No, nothing for me. Like I said, the last couple episodes is now that Living to the Weekend's over, my time is spent at the Nugget and my time is spent in my basement getting ready for these shows. I do have a little bit of interesting news, though. And this is, I talk a lot since probably December about the Nugget and stuff like that. I try not to bore everybody, didn't talk about it every episode. But I haven't talked about Stagecoach Stop across the street a whole lot. There is a haunted house that is there called Haunting in the Hills. This is coming up, will be their 11th year in operation. Part of this whole endeavor is to develop a lot of stuff over there also, but it just kind of fell in my lap, and it so happens that I put a crew together of some of my core haunt actors, and they are going to be over there with minimal involvement from me, but I'm going to be involved. And this coming fall, this coming October, we are going to be taking the helm over there and repackaging or starting to repackage, starting to put our thumbprint, the kind of Corpse Barn brand that I still carry with me on that haunt. It's always been a decent haunt and it's known in the area as sort of the more family friendly one in the area. And it's still going to remain that. It's still going to be fun, but we are going to be working hard on revamping, refreshing, and tying it in with things going on across the street at the Nugget. So I'm super excited about that. Haunted house is kind of a life passion thing. I was excited and giddy when we were going through trying to figure out what we're going to do, running around, skipping. It's going to be one hell of a good time.
I want to go.
You should make it up. Who knows when the Nugget's going to open? I can tell you for a fact that the Haunting in the Hills, I mean, it's already there. It's turnkey. It just needs to be polished up and refurbished a little bit in some spots. That'll be going on this October for sure. And hopefully I get the Nugget open by then, which you said you're coming. So you haven't seen me in action, man. You gotta come see it.
I'm going to have to take the whole fucking month of October off.
Come be part of the action.
You see this face?
That's why I want you to be a part of the action. I save money on makeup. There's, you just stand there and talk to people and they run away screaming with their hands in the air. Like, get this fucking guy away from me. I don't want anything to do with Godzilla. Ah!
What does Leah say? Your culture is not my costume or some shit like that?
Yeah, that's right. So this, in your case, it's your costume's not my culture. Is that what it would be? Does that make any sense? It's late.
Period. I don't fucking know. Well, I think we're good on the Funhouse, right? It would be fun to go, though. God, it would be fun to go through one of those.
I had a lot of fun at the Funhouse. And actually, one day, I was just talking about all the haunt stuff over at Stagecoach. It won't happen this year, but at some point, I would love to incorporate a small, old school walk through or ride through nostalgic one just like that, like you would see at the carnivals and stuff. There are a few still surviving in the States. It'd be fun there. I mean, they're supposed to be hokey and cheesy. Let's do it. Let's start at Indiegogo. Nah, we'll save that for everybody else. I'm going to build one.
They take a lot of fees, I feel like, on Indiegogo.
Yeah, forget that.
Once the Nugget opens, you could put like a donation box out or something.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, be like, bring back the Funhouse. We got to brainstorm some ideas, so we could probably like wrap this up.
I know we're both kind of brain dead right now. Our segues are decent, but we're just, you know what? Fuck it. Find us on social media. Listen to wherever you get your podcast. And for now, just tune in next time because I remember I told told you a couple episodes ago that if you don't, you're going to find us outside of your house staring in your window. If you look at me, you might kind of be happy. If you look at Brian, like we said, you might be kind of scared. So till next time.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.